Okay, in this one, we're going to multiply binomials, which is usually commonly referred to as FOIL. Okay, what does FOIL stand for? It stands for first, outer, inner, last. I've had students come up to me and they've heard FOIL, but they never knew what it meant. And so what that means is if I were to take two binomials, which basically means it has two terms in it, and what we're going to do is we're going to multiply them together. The goal is everybody has to be multiplied by everybody. It honestly doesn't even matter what order you do it in, but this really helps. So these are the first things. So I'm going to multiply them together and I'm going to get an x squared. Okay, now outers, these are the outies. So I'm going to go x times positive 3, and please say positive and negative. So that's plus 3x. 3 times x is 3x. Now I'm going to go my innies. Okay, here are my innies right here, and that's a positive 6 times a positive x, which would be a positive 6x. And then I do my last. That's the last one in that parentheses. That's the last one there. Say it like this. Positive 6 times positive 3 is a positive 18. And what you're going to notice is at the very end, you're going to come up with some terms here that you're going to be able to combine together. The x squared is just going to be the x squared. Positive 3 and a positive 6 gives you a positive 9x. And then we just have our constant, that 18 out there. And this right here would be the answer. And if you notice, you took the x, you times them by both. Then you take the 6 and you times them by both. That's really all FOIL means. And you will have this step where you can add it together, though I'm going to show you a shortcut, but I want you to know how to do it this way first. Let's take a look at this one. This one has two negative signs. Just be careful with negatives. If anybody messes this up, it's usually because of the negative signs. Listen to all the words I use, and I really think it's going to help you. Okay, first, x squared. Cool. Outies. X times negative 5. That's a negative 5x. Innies, negative 2 times x. That's a negative 2x. And the last, a negative 2 times a negative 5, which gives me a positive 10. I then have to combine these guys in the middle. And remember the rule about subtracting, add a line, change the sign. So that's really negative 5 plus negative 2. So I'm going to get x squared, minus 7x plus 10. I also want you to notice one thing else as I look at these. I went through all those steps, but let me show you a bit of a shortcut. Look over here. What happens when I add these two numbers together? I get 9. What happens when I multiply them together? I get 18. Look at here. What happens when I add negative 2 and negative 5? I get a negative 7. What happens when I multiply negative 2 and negative 5? I get a positive 10. So this is great to know how to do this all, but once you get rolling on this and it makes sense, add to the middle, multiply to the third. And the x and x is just the x squared. That's really great if there's nothing in front of the x. That method does not work if there's a number in front of the x. But if you just have an x plus something or an x minus something, that'll work. Well, what if they're mixed? What if one's a plus and one's a minus? Does it work that way? Well, let's find out. All right, I got a new one up on the board. And I wrote them nice and big for you to see. Okay, now I can go first, outer, inner, last, and we will just to help you out. But looking at that last method, I know there's going to be an x squared, and I know there's going to be an x, and I know there's going to be a number. That's how these will all come out when there's x plus something, x minus something. Okay, great. So now I take a look at that, and what did I do to the middle? Oh yeah, I took the two numbers and I added them. Well, what's positive 5 plus a negative 2? Combine them together. Signs are different, so you subtract, take the sign of the bigger number, which is positive. If this were the other way around with a negative 2 and a positive 5, okay, then all of a sudden, that's exactly what it says. A negative 5 and a positive 2, that would become a negative 3 right here, okay? So just add them up. Now multiply it. Positive 5 times negative 2 is a negative 10. Okay, let's do it the longer way and see if I got there. X times x. X squared. I'll move over here. X times negative 2. Negative 2x. Positive 5 times x. Positive 5x. Positive 5 times negative 2, negative 10. Look, combine like terms. X squared, negative 2 and positive 5 becomes a positive 3x minus 10. And looky, 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 isn't that cool? Okay, this is going to revolutionize the way you've done this if you haven't seen it before. Do the worksheets with me. I'll work a couple of them out the long way, and then I'm just going to jam through them, and you're going to go, whoa, this is actually way easier than I thought, and it is. However, what if there is a number in front of here? Does that get a little trickier? Kind of does. Let me do one problem like that. Okay, so look at this one. Now we have coefficients or big numbers in front of the x's. On this, there is a way that I have when we factor it. You'll find out that the outies and the innies can add together to the middle, but then it gets a little more confusing. So let's just do, I think it's just easier to do this one the long way. So 2x times 4x is 8x squared. Outies, 2x times negative 3 is a negative 6x. Notice how I always say negative and positive. Positive 5, innies. Positive 5 times positive 4. There's no plus sign. Good point, but we know it's positive. It doesn't need the plus. Okay, if it has nothing, it's a plus. Positive 5 times positive 4 is a positive 20x. And the last, positive 3 times negative 3 is a negative 15. Now, I still have my like terms here, so I'm going to get 8x squared, and I'm going to go plus 14x, and I'm going to go minus 15. Okay? And so basically, if you notice, if you multiply the first, they go here. If you multiply the last, they go here. And then if you just figure out outies, innies, and add them together, they go there. So just another way to do this. I really, really hope you go through the worksheets with me, because I think you're going to find these to be pretty quick and easy. But not only that, if you learn that method I used that was kind of the shortcut, we're going to use that shortcut, and we're going to help you to learn that to factor later on. So that'll be a really cool thing. All right, get to work. Let's do some problems.